There is the shooter as he is entering the building, a building that we now know he entered through an unlocked door.
But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse.
There are 19 sets of parents who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Hey guys, H here, and today I'm making this video because I feel like I have to. I can't continue on without making this video. I feel like I can't post another video without doing this first. And Francis is absolutely right. It seems like people talk longer about that slap at the Oscars than they did about the shooting at Robb Elementary. And of course, today that I'm making this video, Roe v. Wade was overturned, so that's being talked about as well. So let's get into this because this is insane that this keeps happening. As you know, Sandy Hook happened 10 years ago, and within that 10 years, nothing has happened in regards to making safer gun laws. Actually, the opposite has happened, where gun laws have become more laxed, and concealed carry weapons and open carry weapons are, I mean, you don't need a permit anymore in like 23 states for that, including Georgia. So it really seems like a slap in the face to the parents of the murder victims of Sandy Hook, where 27 and 6-year-olds were murdered and 7 adults were murdered by a 20-year-old. So a lot of excuses were made, I should say, in regards to the shooting at Robb Elementary. If changes had happened after Sandy Hook, if changes had happened after the first school shooting, these wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened. They're really hanging on to this one excuse that the door was unlocked. It's an elementary school. Kids have recess. People are in and out of the building all day. Cafeteria workers, janitorial staff, etc. The doors are not going to be locked at all times of the day. And I believe they had a graduation ceremony that day, so that's why the door is unlocked. And also summer was coming up, so people were moving their stuff from their classroom to their cars, etc. So there is no excuse. The only excuse is this guy was able to go in and buy a gun and unlimited amounts of ammo and shoot up a school. That's because of, his Second Amendment right. He was able to go in and do that without a background check, without a waiting period. He was able to go in and buy whatever he wanted, with as long as he had the money, because that's what happens in this country. Apparently that's all that matters in this country, not the rights of women and children, but guns. Guns have more rights in this country than we do. And it's always thrown in our faces, like, seriously. So, and at Uvalde, of course, everyone knows that it took over an hour for the cops to actually go in and rescue these children. And the person who actually took down the shooter was an off-duty border patrolman. The cops were too busy restraining the parents who were trying to go in and save their children because the cops were not doing it. And the cops were going in saving their own kids instead of helping the kids who were in the classroom with the shooter. So this woman, she went in and saved her own kids, and she was apprehended for it and threatened because of it. Her name is Angelique Gomez, and she went in and saved her kids. And she reported that after she started talking to the press and stuff about what was happening, she also reported that the cops were more forceful with the parents than they were with the shooter. She reported that she's been getting threatening phone calls from the cops and threatening to charge her with obstruction. So this is all the way just, it's sad because I'm not surprised. It really is. It's sad because I'm not surprised. I'm just tired of this happening. I'm tired of people not reacting, not talking about it. It just really seems like people just don't care anymore. But I feel like a lot of people are maybe just numb to it, or just like, oh, this is America. This is going to continue to happen, because they're not going to do anything about the gun laws. Because as we all know, the NRA runs this country, of course. So while the shooter was in the building and while some of the kids were in the classroom with the shooter, some of them did manage to make 911 calls. And this one little boy did an interview where he talked about when he was in the classroom with the shooter. And when the officers finally came into the building, an officer instructed them to yell out if they needed help. Well, one little girl did, and she was promptly murdered by the shooter after she did that. And then is when the cops finally came in and took down the shooter. But I'm like, why would you tell them to yell out, like knowing they could possibly be shot? That made no sense whatsoever. There were some Republicans that were trying to implement new gun safety regulations, and as of today, that actually went through. I'm guessing because of what happened at Uvalde. But before Robb Elementary happened, they were trying to pass the red flag law, and it didn't pass. They backed off because the NRA didn't want it to go through. But now, after Robb Elementary, it has gone through as of today, and President Biden signed it into office. So as I mentioned earlier, 23 states have signed into office that permitless carry of concealed weapons is now legal. And a lot of these already had like permitless carry of open carry was already legal. I know Georgia did. And now they can conceal carry as well without a permit. So nice. That's just fun, isn't it? Just letting everybody walk around without a permit. Just in Walmart. Honestly, you see that a lot around here. Like, why the fuck do you need a gun in Walmart? But I guess you do for the other crazy people with a gun in Walmart who might come shoot up the place, huh? So anyway, Kemp said people don't have to carry if they don't want to, but this is a constitutional authority that people have, and they certainly shouldn't have a piece of paper from the government to be able to legally carry a weapon, which makes no sense. Like, it is a safety issue. So even if somebody doesn't want to have a gun, that doesn't mean that the next person next to them should just have a gun, just wielding it around. And I always thought that seeing people in Walmart and stuff with a gun is like, okay, like, just open. Like, anybody could just grab that shit and just start going ham. For real. Even a little kid could just grab it, because most of them aren't even really secure on these people. They're just out and open. Like, they just want people to see it just because, like, does that, you think that makes you look tough or something? Like, no, because the next asshole next to you has a concealed gun. But anyway, that's what's happening here. And in response to what happened at Robb Elementary, states like Ohio are now making it so teachers carry guns. They felt that, or they feel that more guns would make them safer. And that makes absolutely no sense. That makes no sense. Because these are the lowest paid. This is like the lowest paid profession here. They have very little respect from parents and students. They're treated like trash, and it's insane. They don't have the equipment. They don't even have books. Like, I don't know if it's like everywhere now in this country, but there are no books for the kids to take home. There are no books for every student. And a lot of the books they have are outdated. So you don't give them supplies. They don't get paid enough. They don't get the respect, but you expect them to be bodyguards for your kids and go toe to toe with a damn shooter, an active shooter, when the cops didn't even do that. You had an army of cops outside of Robb Elementary, and they were standing around for over an hour because they didn't know what to do, or because they were afraid for their lives and they didn't want to get hurt. Meanwhile, 19 kids were in there being murdered. The kids were in there covering themselves in blood from their already murdered classmates to make it seem like they're already dead to, protect themselves. And this shooting in Buffalo happened that same week as Robb Elementary. That shooter was going off what was being spewed on Fox News about the Great Replacement theory, where some Republicans believe that black people and other immigrants are going to replace the white race. So this genius decided, hey, I'm going to go to a grocery store that is popular amongst black people or in a black area and just start killing as many black people as I can. And that's what happened. And I believe he purchased that gun the same day as well, or recently, like the Robb Elementary shooter as well. And of course, after that happened, Fox News has gone silent about the Great Replacement theory, because before that, they were 10 toes into it. They were 10 toes down, but now is silence. And this other shooting happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a man was unhappy with the results of his surgery. I believe he was having problems with impotence or something after his surgery. And he went and decided to murder 4 people. I believe 2 physicians and 2 other people. And yeah, I think it was like a month or so after his surgery. It was something crazy like that. But honestly, it's hard to keep up with all these shootings because, like I said, it's almost like happening on a damn daily basis at this point. Yeah, Memorial Day weekend, there were over 12 mass shootings in this country. Like, I don't see how I don't know. I guess I get how people aren't freaking out more because it is so frequent, but I don't even want to go to a concert or anything where there are so many people because you never know. And at this point, it's like, it's a good chance that somebody's going to start shooting. And I don't want to be a part of that. It's like, how do you live your life in this country? For real. It's like you can't even send your kid to school and expect them home because they might die at school. Like, they're honestly being trained at school. It's so sad. I read some of the teachers' threads on Twitter about what they're being taught to teach their kids when it comes to mass shooters, and how some people may have to sacrifice themselves when it comes, like, some kids. They're kids. They shouldn't have to sacrifice themselves. They shouldn't have to worry about a shooter coming into the school. Like, they're not at war. They're children. But basically you are in this country because gun laws are just out the window. But yeah, the parents are trying, but they have to go against the shithole government of this country, and it's a lot. It's a lot. I forgot to mention that during an active shooting, all officers in the area who can get there, who are available, have to go there. It doesn't matter the district or whatever. So there's like an army of cops against one shooter. Some people were saying, oh, he's being bullied at school. Some people were saying, oh, it's mental illness, blah, blah, blah. And I don't care. I don't care. There's no excuse for it. And people love to slap mental illness on it now. Like, oh, it's a mental illness. No, because women have mental health issues all the time as well. They do. But 99% of these mass shooters are men. So there's something else. I'm just tired of the excuses.
As the U.S. gun control debate intensifies, some Americans are looking overseas for ideas on how to prevent mass shootings. Japan has one of the lowest rates of gun violence in the world. Take a look at this stark comparison. The U.S. has more than 4 firearm homicides per 100,000 people, compared to almost 0 in Japan. Elizabeth Palmer reports on the surprising origin of gun restrictions placed on Japanese citizens.
Raphael, a well-known Japanese YouTuber, is also ex-military. But before taking up skeet shooting with instructor Takashi Maeda, he had to get a gun license, which in Japan is an ordeal.
There's mandatory training. You have to pass a written exam, a physical, and a mental health evaluation. And even then, the police can go and ask your family and friends whether you've got any violent tendencies. From the time you began the process until you got your license, how long did it take?
It took me a year, he said, and told me the police had even interviewed his wife. Japanese police do carry handguns, but they're the only ones who can have them, and they are rarely drawn.
I've heard that there's very strict control on ammunition as well.
Yes, he tells me, when a gun owner runs out, he needs police authorization to buy more. Does he think the law goes too far? Not a bit. Like most Japanese, he supports it as the price for almost zero gun violence. And how's this for ironic? Japan owes its strict gun laws to America.
The machines themselves had to be destroyed.
When the U.S. occupied Japan after World War II, it disarmed the country.
To the scrap heap went the guns.
Americans shaped the legislation that took firearms out of the hands of civilians. And to this day, that means getting hurt or killed by a gun in Japan is an extremely long shot.
And I'm sure a lot of other people have seen the tweet that Francis also tweeted about there being, or the TikTok that he made about there being one school shooting in Scotland, and that was it. And then they made much stricter gun laws. But in America, that's not the case. It's like they don't care that these kids are dying at school. It's insane. And like I said, I feel like people are slapping mental illness on it, and that's not the case. There are just some awful people in the world. It's not always mental illness. There are just some terrible people in the world, really, that just want to hurt other people. So back in the 1960s, the government did have much stricter gun laws. They created them after the Black Panther Party took up arms and started walking around the streets with their guns. They knew their gun rights and they fully used them to their advantage. And they urged every other black person in the country to do the same. And Ronald Reagan and the NRA did not like that, so they made much stricter gun laws. And the NRA fully backed them because it was black people armed in the streets. But like I said, they did it all within their rights, and they were absolutely correct to do so. And only then were stricter gun laws created, and they were the strictest gun laws ever in U.S. history.
Learned that just moments ago. Lieutenant Chris Oliveira is telling us that the door was unlocked as the shooter went in.
It is just an American problem, sir.
Mr. Cruz, why is America the only country that faces this kind of mass shooting?
But you can't answer that. You can't answer that, can you, sir? You can't answer that. Why is this country?
Why is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest country on earth.
It may be the freest. It may be the most.
Why are our kids dying in school?
So as of now, 2022 is predicted to surpass 2021 in regards to the number of mass shootings. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, there are actual statistics showing that the mass shootings are just increasing and increasing, and nothing has been done yet. But like I said, Biden did sign into law as of today the red flag law, which is a start. It's nowhere near like enough, but it's a start. And basically the red flag law is kind of like the abortion law like they created in some of these states, where if you see someone who deems to be a threat to themselves or others, you can report them and the necessary procedures will go into effect to either take their weapons or prevent them from getting weapons, and ultimately, hopefully, save lives and prevent more school shootings, more mass shootings. But it's not perfect. Like I said, it's a start. There's still a long way to go, but honestly, before today, this wasn't even into effect. Like, this just happened, and this is after Roe v. Wade was overturned. So, yeah, we got a long way to go. So, I don't know, Biden said he's gonna continue to try to put stricter laws into effect to try to make things better, but the president doesn't really have a whole lot of authority. It has to go through Congress and the Supreme Court. Everything has to be put to a vote. That's how democracy works. So, after the shooting at Robb Elementary, the NRA continued on with their scheduled annual meetup in Texas, their scheduled convention. And of course, they didn't blame the guns. They blamed the shooters, like, oh, it's just one guy. It's just one guy. But the problem is there are so far over 250 something of this one guy this year. So it's not just one guy. This one guy was able to buy guns and unlimited ammo within days of doing this. And it's the weird part. Okay, if he was being bullied or whatever his excuse was, those kids weren't the ones bullying him. So I don't understand what the whole point of shooting up elementary school kids. That makes no sense because he went to rob high school, but he shot up an elementary school. So it made no sense. And at this point, it just seems like it's just a copycat sort of deal. Like people just want to be known, just do something horrible. And that's what it seems like. And they're able to do this because they can just go into any Walmart or whatever and buy a gun and just go on about their day all within 10 minutes. And this is ridiculous. This should not be the case. So will things get better? I have no idea. I hope so. But with the NRA running the country, I doubt it because everyone knows what's happening. Everyone knows why it's happening. But nothing has changed yet. Yet we're still just seeing dead kids at school. And they're just like implementing and teaching these little tactics for them to hopefully stay safe during an active shooter. Where they shouldn't even have to think about this. They shouldn't have to worry about this. Most kids don't even want to go to school. But now you have to worry about being murdered while you're at school as well. It's insane. So I hope it gets better, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Because these politicians, their kids don't go to our schools. They don't have to think about this. They don't have to worry about this. They don't go to our grocery stores. They don't have to deal with what we have to deal with on an everyday basis. So now we have to arm our kids to deal with the unthinkable, and we have to worry whether or not our kids are going to come home from school or come home from recess. It's ridiculous.